It says end of stream now.
No, you're live, Bill.
Oh, I'm live? Okay.
You're live, yeah.
All right.
What
Yeah.
would you do without me?
I know you're the producer. You make this thing run, Joe. You don't take enough credit. So welcome one and all. I'm sort of dragging my feet here, hoping someone shows up. But what we have going on tonight is the third edition of Linglestown Gazette Live. This one's for June 30th, 2025. We're heading into July tomorrow, Joe. Can you believe the summer is flying by like that?
Wow, it certainly is.
And have a big weekend ahead of us. All kinds of events. We'll touch on that tonight. And we're going to hit some hot topics here, including some information that has sort of been secret in our community because we are a full-fledged, never doubted news desert, a dry news desert. There's nothing going on here news-wise other than this little dog and pony show. And we're going to try and make it worthwhile. So we have two people here. We'll get into the heart of this thing right now. Starting now, Joe, we're going to move right into it. And introducing a new concept tonight. We're going to be introducing, although we've been doing it in part, a new concept of local news, and that is Linglestown Gazette. From here on out until I pass away or I get thrown out of the job or run out of money or something happens like that, we're going to be known as local news with an edge.
Ooh.
We're going to have an edge doing this thing, and hopefully it'll make it interesting.
Wow.
Unlike what they call legacy newscasts. If you watch WGAL TV 8, 21, 27, 43, it's like seeing carbon copies. Same thing over and over and over again. They all have the same format. They all do the same thing. And they've been doing it for decades and decades and decades. We're not going to follow that pattern. We're going to be on the edge. And the reason, you may wonder, why am I wearing the Eagles hat? Do you have any idea, Joe, why I put the Eagles on? You want to take a shot at that?
No idea. Well, I mean, they're not edgy. I don't think it falls in line with the edginess.
Their defense was edgy last year for sure.
Okay.
But they are the world champions.
And
when it comes to local news, here in Linglestown, Pennsylvania, Lower Paxton Township, the 13th largest municipality in the state, or actually the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we want to be the champions of local news. How about that, Joe?
I can see it happening, Bill.
But what it's going to involve is conversation, laughter, some entertaining stuff, believe it or not. We'll admit when we're wrong, when we do something stupid, right? And this is going to be edgy. So why don't you throw that photo up? This is an example of someone who's trying to be edgy.
You mean the photo of the edgy guy?
The edgy man.
Okay, let me find the edgy guy.
There, this is the epitome of edginess.
Bill, when you sent me that photo, you sent me like a bundle of photos.
Right.
Before I knew what you were going to do with it, I'm sitting there thinking, now what's he going to do with this?
This is my definition of edgy. I mean, I wouldn't do this. I'd do other crazy things, but not that.
No, you're a different type of edgy.
Yeah. So just a couple of examples of edginess. For example, this news operation is lean and mean. If you've been watching me in recent weeks, I've only been back doing this since March. And I think, Joe, this is my fourth attempt to try and make local news in Lower Paxton Township and Central Dauphin School District work.
Okay.
But this time around, I have $0 in budget. I mean, the state's trying to get a budget, millions and tens of millions of dollars. The school district just did something, a couple $100 million, right? This operation is zero. No, it's not going to be able to stay that way, but that's how we're starting. And then one of my friends, my good friend, Frank Catola, met a guy at the grocery store this past weekend. He had been watching what I was doing and he thought I needed some guidance, on my side of the equation. Everyone's very, very satisfied with what you've been offering up at Linglestown Gazette Sports, Joe. Okay. And then the leadership you're providing with this and that, the podcast is beyond reproach. But I was sort of lagging behind a little bit. Frank's
I don't think so, Bill. No, I look up to you, Bill.
So he took it upon himself to hire me, a general manager. His name, and I don't know where this guy is from. Oliver Schminke is the general manager's name. He's currently
what type
on.
of name is Schminke, Bill?
You don't know. We'll have to find out when this guy. He's on probation, and anyone in my organization that's in probation is not allowed to show up on camera.
Is that like Eastern European?
Can you imagine this? Let's imagine this guy was a patrol officer in a car, and he flips the lights on. He pulls you over, and then he says, "Roll down the window." You roll down the window. He says, "I'm Officer Schminke."
I would not know how to take
Can you
that.
imagine? You just laugh at him. What are you talking about? Schminke? So he's on probation, and he teamed up with my wife. His job is very simple. Anything I ask for, anything I want to do, any new concepts except this edginess, I've gotten permission to do that. He used to say no. That's his job. I'm not allowed to do anything, Joe.
He's your no man.
Yeah. Yes, he is. I've gotten in trouble before, so he's my no man. So now, why don't other operations try and be a little more edgy? You want to take a crack at that?
I think maybe because they don't think their viewers are gonna be edgy enough, or the viewers aren't gonna feel the edginess so much.
They feel it, but they'd run, right? That kind of thing.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a fear of breaking the mold. Again, they've been doing it for decades, and they don't want to take any risks. Okay. And they don't want to have any fun. They just want to deliver the news the same old way they've been doing. Now, there's an exception. Did you ever watch Jasmine Brooks on 21?
No.
But she broke the mold. She's doing a lot on social media, but now she's leaving for greener pastures. She definitely broke the mold. But when it comes to commentary, we'll be doing some of that. I like to what one guy on the internet, a true pro, says he likes to call balls and strikes. Just call them the way they are. Not play partisan politics, not do any of that stuff. So you get the real deal from me, and hopefully, if you're involved in some way, Joe, the same. I think that wouldn't be a problem. But there is one misconception I want to tackle right now. And that comes, I was reminded of it, Joe, by our friend, I would call him a friend now, a friend of the show, Barry Bingaman, Mr. Bingaman. I spent a lot of time working with him, trying to get him to understand what we're all about. But he was very happy with our coverage with Brett Graham. Mr. Bingaman is following the career firefighter program pretty closely. So he
the jury was still out as to whether or not Mr. Bingaman even liked us, Bill.
Well,
right? We weren't sure. We weren't sure.
We were having very civil, constructive conversations on the comments. Yeah, I know you may not be aware of it, but I took it on my mission to turn Mr. Bingaman around.
Okay.
That's edgy. Because what would most people do when they got some constructive, consistent information that you're doing it somewhat wrong? You're not really
flee or recoil or bark back down. Or there's so many things that people would do that probably wouldn't end up being the right move.
Right. So I didn't play that game. I just called some balls and strikes, told him the way it is. But this is what he says about moving forward, keeping track of the career firefighter program. Hopefully you guys can get some coverage. There's a problem there. Linglestown Gazette, even though Joe is my producer tonight, he's not an integral part day in, day out, right? You're doing your own thing on the sports.
No, it's you guy.
Yeah, it's you guy. There's only one guy at Linglestown. But people get the perception that I'm everywhere. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They don't realize I'm still working full time.
You're an island.
You guys, okay. But there are some big plans to be announced sometime after Independence Day. It's July 4th, and that would be what, Joe? Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Sometime in the next week, or maybe a little bit beyond, big plans will be announced. And it could be I get up at 2:30 in the morning, Joe, and I announce my plans just to just to be edgy. I mean, just to be
That's
a
edgy, Bill.
It's edgy.
Anthony Cristillo says he wants to discuss local pool news, Bill. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but since I'm the producer, I have to let you know when these comments come in,
Local
correct?
news. Okay, would you mark that down and we'll cover that?
Yes, I'm going to mark that down. Anthony, I'm marking that down.
Now here's the epitome of a news desert. Our first topic of the night. Central Dauphin School District 2025-26 budget. Joe, were you aware that what's tonight? We're a Monday night, right?
Monday.
1 week ago, they passed the budget. Now 7 days have passed. Did that leak out anywhere that other than the people that maybe went to the meeting? Did you know about that?
I knew about that. Yeah.
Okay. How did you find out? Because I didn't know about it.
Because I kind of travel in circles with people that, and no, these aren't big shots or anything, but I have a lot of friends who are educators and I know some people on the school board and,
Okay. So. Well, I would imagine that we have 5 people on the show. Anthony, did you know that the school board passed a budget last week, or am I the only one in the dark here? They did. June 23rd, last Monday, Central Dauphin School District at their board meeting, the 2025-26 budget was passed. $272,650. $272 million. It was adopted. The budget includes a real estate tax increase of 4.75. That's the increase. And then there's a millage rate that they expressed that in a millage rate. We're not going to get into that. That would take a whole show to figure out how to calculate your taxes. But I can only give my example. For me, in 2024, and if we just put my house up there, there's a house here to put up.
Certainly.
This is the kind of house I live in. This is not actually my house, but it's in my neighborhood. This is the type of thing I live in. I think 35 years ago or whatever, it was around $70,000 or $75,000 when I bought it. Homes like this are now valued at $250,000, maybe higher if there's some additions. And so last year with this kind of home, I paid $1,618 in school property tax. $1,618. This year, using the 4.75% increase, I'm going to be paying $77 more, Joe, a year. That's $6.42 a month, and my new total is just under $1,700. So it's not a huge. I mean, I would call this a typical home in our township.
Yeah.
And it looks like, based on recent sales, the average, maybe the median home, it's selling for about $250,000 in our township right now. So there's some above that, some probably a few below that. So that's how things are rolling out. Of course, the sales prices doesn't reflect what you're paying taxes on, the assessed value. There's a difference there. But nevertheless, so for me, $77 a month, bigger, $77 a year, bigger properties, if you have a lot of land or whatever, it would be a lot more than 77.
Right.
So yeah, but again, I'm supposed to be connected. I just found this out today. So if you have a legitimate full-time professional news service, you would have known that a week ago, anyone listening to this. So that's how that came down. And then tomorrow night, another township meeting, Joe. Did you look at the agenda?
I did.
I have it laid out here. Don't you agree with me that one of the hottest things to watch is pretty much in the beginning of the meeting, and that would be public comment?
That's always a hot thing to watch, Bill.
Yeah, you never know what's going to come up.
No.
And there's some scuttlebutt that something is coming up. I have no idea what. And again, I'm calling balls and strikes. I have no idea. But someone's up to something. Apparently, we'll see what happens tomorrow night. I'll be watching on YouTube, or it's available on YouTube Live. Is it available on the school district website?
It is.
It is.
Yes,
okay.
For sure.
So at least those two places.
You mean on the township? Yeah, on the township website. Yes, it is.
Is it on the town? It's on the township.
And may I add that
sure,
you can go in halfway through, 2/3 of the way through. You can watch it later that night. I don't want people to think that, hey, I'll be busy during those hours, 7 to 9 or whatever.
Right.
Is that what time it starts? 7?
7.
Just okay. you can watch it whenever you want on demand, or, pick it up in the middle or whatever. So,
well, in my case, if you remember, the May 13th meeting was 3 hours long. I probably watched it over the course of 10 days until I got through it all. So yeah, you don't have to watch it live. You can watch it on the rebound. Let's see but there's some interesting agenda items. Action to terminate consultant agreement. Now, this is going to be speculation on my part, but I believe what that's referring to is the consultant agreement with Brad Gottschall, because that could have been eliminated at any point. I think that's what this is talking about. I believe
like it might be terminated as quickly as it was brought about.
Right. But it makes sense when you get to the next one, is to appoint an interim assistant township manager. They've already announced that public safety director Adam Koshiba is filling in that position. He's already doing that. That's already been discussed publicly. Then next one, action to appoint an interim township manager. Have no idea who that is, but apparently found someone to fill the township manager position temporarily. So for me, and maybe many others, that announcement will be brand new. We have no idea. I've heard no scuttlebutt about that. And then last but not least, they're going to be leasing 4 2025 police SUVs. Okay. So they're bringing in 4 new vehicles under a lease with Santander. So I think that's the name of the bank, Santander Bank. Santander. Okay.
Yes.
I think I'll just call it Santana. It's a little bit easier.
Yeah, that'll work. Carlos Santana Savings and Trust.
And I have an idea. I mean, these police vehicles typically are outfitted with some excellent engines, right? Yes. It's not just your regular standard consumer engine. I mean, these things, you punch it, you feel it.
Right.
So what I would like to do, Joe, is see if Mr. Koshiba, and if you want to get into this, you can too. I'll include you in this if you want to experience this. At like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, they would take us out on 81, and from a dead start, just punch one of those, and shoot on down the road, and the experience what it's like to initiate a chase.
I've already done that, Bill.
I want to do it.
Yeah, I've gotten a car. I had at the time it was Lower Paxton Police Lieutenant Dick Toth with me. He'll admit to this. And I was driving a brand new 12-cylinder Mercedes, couple-year-old actually, and he wanted to go for a ride in it. It wasn't my car. I sold it to somebody and I was delivering it. Anyway, cut to the chase. I got that thing up to 155 on 81. Yeah.
What does that feel like when you're at 155?
In a car like that, it feels like you're going about 95 or 100. It's just a great vehicle. The aerodynamics were incredible. But yeah, I'll never do it again. One and done for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fastest. I used to go to. You ever hear of the velodrome? There's a velodrome on just this side of Allentown, like those bank tracks that you see in the Olympics.
I have heard of that.
Okay. Well, they have one of those down there, and the bicycle racing club locally, I was affiliated with them, mainly doing announcing and organizing races. And they would make trips down there a couple times a week. And somebody, I think, got it up to 80 or 90, and that was more than enough. But if I had a police officer beside me, I think I'd be okay. I mean, I trust them, and just let it rip. I mean, isn't that the epitome of edginess?
That's edginess, yeah.
Yeah. Now we're going to have a quick update on the November 4th, 2025 Board of Supervisors election update. What I called about today to find out is, well, we have 4 seats. Unbelievable. Probably never happen again. We have 4 seats up for grabs on November 4th for the Supervisors Board. The only one that's not competing is second-year Supervisor Pamela Thompson. So as far as the candidates that went through the primary in the spring, we have a 6-year term. Democrat Katie Scheib is going to be competing against Republican Laura Kurtz, who's the current chairwoman of the board on an interim basis. So that's one, a 6-year term. And then Dr. Charles Stewart on the Democratic side is competing for a 2-year term against Alan McCormick, who is currently an interim township supervisor. But the other 4, when we talk about the other 2 seats, those 4 candidates had to be appointed by the local Democratic and Republican committees. And those appointments have been made. I'm not going to get into all the details because what I found out is that the county is not in a position to release those names as far as how they're going to line up on the ballot. There's a 2-year term, there's a 4-year term. So either the parties have to announce it and just come out publicly and say who's going to be competing for the 2-year, who's for the 4-year. And I haven't gotten any word. They haven't told me as far as how things are lining up. And then if they don't announce it and they keep it secret for whatever reason, a little bit later down the line here, the county has to print a ballot for mail-in ballots. So at that point, they would have to be done at that point. We would know who's running for what. So it's a waiting game until they actually get that all lined up for the other 2 seats.
Bill, I think it's worth mentioning that This and That, the podcast, will be conducting the official LP Township Board of Supervisors Election 2025 debate, the official one. And we have not we've not decided yet how we want to square these folks off against one another. We do know that there will be 8 people to try to fit into 2 debates. Yeah. And as it gets closer to that date, we're going to figure out. We have figured out a fair way of doing it, though, an equitable way. That
you have a way of picking out the questions.
Yeah,
cup system.
It's an equitable way of not allowing anybody to have the upper hand in terms of who gets what questions and stuff like that. But and I know we don't want to get into it much more than just that. But I will be reminding the folks between now and when we do the debate that we are the official. That's This and That, the podcast. The official, your official debate home for the 2025 Board of Supervisors.
And the Linglestown Civic Association will be having a candidates night as well. If we didn't mention that, my correspondent Bill Minsker would be very unhappy with me. So we don't have to give the dates. It's down the line here, but they will be having something too. But between you and me, we made an executive decision that we are, in fact, the official debate site.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Okay. That takes care of that. And then I do want to remind anyone coming in here, it looks like we have 2 people watching live. We've got 1 thumbs up. We know one. Oh, got a lot of paper rustling there. We know one of the persons watching live is Anthony Costello, who's dominating the comments section. And Joe, he had a great idea for how I could get a ride with a police officer.
I saw that. Yeah. I don't know if retail theft gets you 125-mile-an-hour ride, though.
Shoplift at Turkey Hill. Okay. Good one, Anthony. Viola water. I saw this morning that people are still reporting brown water in our area and some surrounding municipalities. So it's still a problem. I called them up, and they were prepared for my call because they already had a recording. They said, Mr. Bostic, we knew you were going to call because you are such a professional reporter.
We were prepared for your edginess.
Yeah, they were prepared. They said there's areas where this brown water is trapped in pockets in their system. And then it periodically gets released. And so what they're doing is they're doing spot flushing, and based on where they're getting reports from. So if an area is getting calls about brown or dirty water, they'll go out there and do some spot flushing to help clean up the system. So it's an ongoing project. They told me no bacteria in the water. The water meets drinking water standards. So that's the story. I know brown water doesn't seem like you want to drink that, but they're saying it's okay. They're continuing to stick with that story.
They have spokespersons who work with company law department. They have entire attorneys, rooms full of attorneys there, and these people aren't just going to make these statements without consulting with their attorneys. And I mean, it's a $26 billion company, Bill.
Right, and it's highly regulated by the state too.
Right.
So. Yeah. Okay, some lighter fare here, Joe. Do Do you like the hike? I think you do.
I love the hike. Yeah.
And what's your favorite spot in the township or near the township?
Well, I like to go up to the Appalachian Trail because it's two hikes in one. You can go up there and park, and you can go, west towards the river or east away from the river. So that's like, and the one towards the river is a very challenging hike once you get to a certain point.
Oh, you're talking about at Peters Mountain?
Yes, at the top.
I hate that part with all those rocks.
Oh, it's a brutal hike. It's tough on the knees, tough on the feet, tough on everything. But yeah, that's a hike. But I like, I really do enjoy. Is that what you're ready for there?
No, I'm not. Well, we can transition to that. Okay, let's put the mountain up instead of the pavilion.
Oh, okay. I get you now.
What I wanted to let everyone know, this is actually the mountain north of Linglestown. And up on that mountain, if you go up Blue Mountain Parkway, you turn on the Blue Mountain Parkway in the Linglestown, and you go up to the mountain. You're going to head up to the top of this ridge, and there's actually a former state township park up there, Hawker Park, right at the top. Has a parking lot. If you're going up our side, the Linglestown side, parking lots on the left, and that hooks you up to a trail that goes from right to left at the top of the mountain and takes you into Boyd Big Tree Preserve Conservation Area. This is my favorite spot to hike because once you get into Boyd, and this is at the bottom of the other side, there's a pavilion. These benches are great for laying down and resting.
Do they? Is it? I mean,
Right.
It looks tilted, Bill.
It's filthy.
Tilted.
Oh, tilted.
Is it hard to sit up straight in that?
It's sinking. One side is sinking.
Okay, I can see that.
But I was in a hurry. That's the picture I picked up. You can take your lunch, hike up the mountain, down into Fishing Creek Valley and eat there. But there's a whole network of trails in Boyd Big Tree
There's
Preserve.
some challenging hikes up there in Boyd's. That's another one of my top spots.
Do you think you've been on all the trails on that on the?
I think I've been on all the trails up there, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you walk up and down the power line? That's steep.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's steep.
All right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to let people. We actually have a conservation area in our township, and which I think is amazing. You think of it as pure suburbia, homes and yards, and ponds and swimming pools, but we have some rural areas right there in on the mountain.
How about Detweiler Park? Are you familiar with Detweiler?
I am. That's not hugely challenging. There is an uphill part on the back part of the property, but it is a nice place to walk.
Once you get into the woods, I mean, you can hike there without even just by walking through like the grass,
Right.
But once you go up into the woods a little bit,
Yep.
it's a bit challenging, not like Boyd or some of these other
Yeah, we should explain where this is at. This is north of Dauphin.
Mm-hmm.
Right before you go up Peters Mountain, on the right-hand side, you'll find the Detweiler Park, owned and operated by the county, Dauphin County.
The 3B ice cream is almost right across the street from it.
Right. So after you're done, you have to stop there. You get sucked right into the 3Bs.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is Linglestown Gazette Live, the third one ever, and we're in the midst of introducing our edginess, local news with what is it? What did I come up with? Local news with an edge.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing here. We have a couple other things to cover. Really, we have three more things to cover, and this next thing is entertainment opportunities of the week. Entertainment opportunities of the week. Fireworks. We're before the 5th. Actually, July 3rd. And what day of the week is that's Thursday, right?
That's
July
Thursday.
3rd.
Yeah.
That's when the fireworks are happening at Coons Park about 9:15. And be sure to check out Linglestown Gazette and other Facebook pages that carry Linglestown news and Lower Paxton news, because I think the police are taking a different tact this time around with some of the problems they had No, you're getting ahead of us here, Joe.
I am getting ahead of us here.
So we're on July 3rd,
Yeah.
fireworks.
Oh, yeah. I don't have a July 3rd photo.
I know, I didn't have one. There's no photo for that.
All right.
No. Yeah. So be sure to, because the park's going to be closed down most of the day. I looked at it close, not that closely, but they are trying. I'm sure they're taking some steps to avoid the juvenile delinquents from taking control of it.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
We don't have to like get into it too much, but they are closing the park to prepare for the fireworks, right?
Yeah, a vendor has to come in and set them up.
That's going to be from earlier in the morning until I think 5 p.m. Is that when they're going to open it up?
Yeah, I don't have it down pat. I don't have it in front of me, but it is different than past years for sure. And these changes are coming about because 2 years in a row we had juvenile delinquents making trouble. I had a gathering at my cabin this past weekend, and actually one of my guests saw some of the stuff happening right in front of them. I forget what they said happened. So it's one of those kids were going after police officers. They had something, and this is before the fireworks even took place. It's right there in the football field. This is happening.
That's the fireworks before the fireworks.
Yeah, exactly. So they got the heck out of there, basically. So hopefully nothing happens this year, and that we don't have to go through the deliberations we did earlier this year when they thought they wanted to move the fireworks to Georgia Park, the Linglestown Fire. Yeah, when you do that, it makes a lot of noise. Yeah,
oh, does it?
Yeah, it makes a lot of noise. Yeah. Yeah, I used to do that too, and you go on.
And I used to tell you about it.
Yeah. So that's Thursday. Now Friday we have July 5th. You had that up there. You want to throw it back up again?
We're jumping forward to July 5th now.
July 5th, Saturday. There's all kinds of activities at Heroes Grove. A lot of it having to do with children. So that's available. And I think things start at 10 o'clock and run through maybe 2 o'clock, something like that.
Heroes Grove is the property that sits kind of sits between the Friendship Center, which is the YMCA, and the park, Brightville Park.
And it's really what sort of behind where Kmart used to be, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's on the back side of Brightville Park is where it's located.
It's tucked right between the Friendship Center and Brightville Park.
Yeah,
it's a great facility.
So that's what's happening there. And I said again, a lot of these things are geared towards children. Thinking about taking my granddaughter over there on that one.
They used to call that a band shell. It kind of has a band shell look to it.
Yeah, yeah. Amphitheater too.
Amphitheater. That's another term for that. Yeah.
All right. And then on July 6th, this is Sunday, the Lower Paxton Variety Band will be putting on a concert at Heroes Grove from 6 to 7:30. And I will put in the comments a link to all this stuff happening. Apparently, the Lower Paxton Township Foundation is behind a lot of this. Another opportunity I've been promoting on Linglestown Gazette is that St. Thomas Roasters has started music again. Here we're looking at Susie Brown. She was at Roasters on Saturday night. A few people took that in. Before that, we had Mark Santana put a great show on of classic rock and roll. I did a little review of his show on Linglestown Gazette. So for the next number of Saturday evenings, is there an earthquake over there at Colonial Park?
Bill, I hardly touched them.
I know that, but it does. I mean, it just shoots off sound. Yeah.
All right.
I know. I always had that same thing here.
Right.
Yeah. So I think through sometime in August, they're going to have artists show up every Saturday, 6 to 8. It's free, Joe. If you don't like to pay admission charges, these concerts, these activities are free at St. Thomas Roasters. But
I don't mind paying admission charges, Bill.
Well, this is what you do over there. You buy coffee. You buy some coffee, buy some pastries, get a panini.
Tip the servers well. Yeah,
and tip the musician. Okay. I had to get Jeff moving because Mark Santana's there singing his heart out, and there was no tip jar for him. I mean, I had to go up there and wave the $5 bill that I was giving him. That's what I gave as a tip. I'm not the greatest tipper, but nevertheless,
Good tip.
I didn't have a jar to put it in, so I think they rectified that problem. And then we have two more things. Hummelstown, if you know where Hummelstown is at, on July 12th, they're having what's called a criterium, which is a bike race on a circuit in a town or city. They've been having this for a few years. If you've never seen a competitive bike race, the guys that have the shaved legs, you know, Joe, and those skin tight outfits, and they wear these funky helmets, and they ride very, very close together, going about 20 to 30 miles an hour in certain situations. They crash.
Oh, Bill, that's the best part. Like a
Yeah.
NASCAR race. I mean, you don't want anybody to get hurt now.
But they also have food trucks, as you can see, craft and vendors. It's quite the thing. And the last tip I'll give you on this, Joe, whenever you're watching, as long as there's no crashes, if it's just a regular pack of riders, it's very quiet. So like you're crossing the street and all of a sudden this pack of 30 or 40 riders could be on top of you. So be sure to watch what you're doing if you're in Hummelstown that day, or you could get crushed.
Can we go down and hand them like a drink?
These races aren't long enough for that. They can't carry enough water for that. And I only know that because I used to be a very, very poor competitive bicycle racer. The best event I had was down in the Capitol complex in Harrisburg on Labor Day. You know, Capona.
Right.
Every year they would have a criterium, a lap race around the Capitol building. I was in the novice division, and I actually led a lap. And we turned on the North Street. I think it was North Street. There's a little bit of an uphill there. I just eased off the pedal a little bit, Joe, and the pack went right by me.
Oh, you can't ease off the pedal, Bill.
I finished dead last. I took my hands off like I was a champion coming across the line.
You may have been the first person ever in that race to be in first place and last place in the same race.
I did it a couple of times in my career, and that's why I became a bicycle race announcer and actually interviewed Eric Heiden, Olympic speed skating champion, because he switched over to pro bicycle racing and won some Tour de France events. So how about that? And then we have Anthony. If you're still there, it looks like you've left because you're not commenting anymore. You were commenting every minute back in the early stages of this show. He wanted to know about Coons Pool.
Yes.
And do you know Forrest Healy, Joe?
I know of him. I don't think we've ever met.
Yeah, I think he's on the board now, and some other people. They commented on the pool's website and maybe their Facebook page that they're still testing the pool to find out where some serious leaks are. What's happening. Why is the water leaking out so quickly? I think the water bills last year might have been something like $7,000 a month at one point. It was a huge bill.
Have they tried just filling it up and waiting to see where the bubbles come from?
They did fill it up enough that they could test it.
Isn't that normally what you do?
Well, they put dye in. They put dye in the water, and that's somehow, I guess if you know what you're doing, you can follow the dye. And some people who have been around the pool for many, many years, they did the same thing. Never were able to find out where the leak was. The concern is that it's underneath the pool, and just at a place where you'd have to dig the thing up to actually repair it and see what's going on. It wouldn't be surprising if they come back and say you really need to put a new pool in there. But we'll see. The jury's still out. I mean, for many people who know about the operation of the pool, they're very doubtful. This is unofficial. Again, we're calling balls and strikes. Just this is what I know. Doubtful that it will open up because they have by law have to have certain numbers of lifeguards, and lifeguards, when you're trying to hire them in the winter and the early spring, are hard to get. So it's going to be difficult to be able to staff that pool, midsummer, and we're almost there. We're getting closer and closer to it. So we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, many people know that the somehow, some way, I'm not sure how it happened. They got $100,000 grant through the state, and there's probably some stipulations on how they have to go about using that money, but they're still in the investigative stage at this point. So that's what's going on with the pool. So he's here. Anthony's here. So how did you like that report, Anthony? Was that comprehensive enough? We'll see. So Joe, just in reflecting on what happened here over the last 40 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
how do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think we ended up on the edginess scale compared to the normal news fare that you get on TV?
5.
So we have some work to do.
We have some work to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I agree.
5's not a bad score, Bill.
I know. I prepared. I had papers. I spent time.
Yeah.
It wasn't all off the top of my head. And again, even though he can't be on camera, we want to welcome Oliver Schminke, General Manager, Linglestown Gazette.
Bill, I will say that the content and the manner in which you delivered it was very good. Well over a 5.
Okay.
I'm just basing my 5 on edginess, which is what you wanted me to do, right? Level of edginess.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, I think to close this out, Anthony, I'm sure, would endorse. This is Anthony Cristillo of Colonial Park. He has his own pool in his backyard and he sells memberships. So, and he has a bigger pool this year. We're still trying to find out where it's at. But nevertheless, I could sing Lady Gaga on the Edge of Glory. Edge of Glory. I know the chorus.
I know, but that's not edgy.
Well, it is pretty edgy, I think. I think Lady Gaga all by herself is edgy to me.
Well, when Lady Gaga does Lady Gaga, it's edgy. Anthony, help me out here. When Bill Bostic does Lady Gaga, I don't think it's edgy.
Anthony doesn't want me to sing anymore. He says, please, no.
Yeah, that's not edgy, Bill.
Look,
you're going to go down to 4.5 on the edgy scale if you start singing.
I did on Memorial Day Eve, 2019, right before I had to end everything, right, for that period of time. I did sing the chorus of On the Edge of Glory and put it on the internet. And recently dusted it off just this past week and put it out there again. But I'll tell you what, here's what happened. Most people are like Anthony, please no, turn that off. It is terrible. But some people gave me major kudos because I dedicated it to the military. I was never in the military. Were you, Joe?
I was not. So
anytime someone volunteers or finds themselves in the military, they step on the edge, just even the edge of a battlefield. In my mind, they are on the edge of glory. You never know what's going to happen in that battle as they defend democracy, the United States, our way of life. So it could be all over for them. Anyone who does that. And similarly, I think our firefighters across the country and certainly here in Lower Paxton Township, our volunteers, when they step on that fire truck and head into a fire and run into a building, they are on the edge of glory, and they deserve, people like me putting it on the line, singing these songs and trying to be as edgy for them as possible. So tune in again. We'll let you know we're going to do another live again. I don't have huge amounts of time to put in the writing stories. We're looking to change that. Anthony's going to help out. I know, Joe, you want to help out, and we're looking for others to help out as well. More information on that in the weeks to come. So, Joe, again, thanks so much for producing the show. I
feel like I let you down a little with the photos tonight. Last week I was much smoother. I kind of kept up last week with what you were talking about. I just threw the corresponding photo up there, and everything was clean as a whistle. This week I kind of got jammed up a couple of times.
Yeah, well, I'll take responsibility for it because I was not getting you that information quick enough for you to digest everything I was trying to get you to do.
All right.
I owe you a cup of coffee. How about that?
Okay, sounds good.
Anthony, good night. Thanks
well done,
for being
Bill.
The only one that commented. We'll see everyone later. Have a good Monday night. We'll see you tomorrow, Tuesday at St. Thomas Roasters around 8 o'clock if you want to stop calling.
There we go.
See you, Joe.
See you, Bill.
Joe, get us out of here. I don't know how to do it.
Okay.